Hello, and welcome to Faith, Final Drafts, and the F Word. I'm Darla Phillips, a host and producer, along with fellow screenwriters Sarah Hopkins and Rebecca Williams-Spindler. Join us as we share our experiences navigating careers in film and television. Add in the twist that we're women of faith, entering into life's second season, and you might find yourself mumbling under your breath. Good luck with that, ladies. Follow along for some guaranteed laughs and some valuable screenwriting and industry perspective. Anyone with a dream will enjoy this podcast video. Hope you join in. In this episode, we chat with our special guest, Ken Miyamoto, about what it's like writing outside of the Hollywood hub.
Welcome everybody back to Faith, Final Drafts, and the F Word. We're very excited today. There's 4 of us.
Yes, we're all
squished.
squished.
That's awesome. We're so excited to welcome our great friend and mentor, Ken Miyamoto, who has been an amazing person in our lives, not only as friends, but as just somebody who is a couple steps ahead and has made basically a career out of this amazing dream. So Ken is a produced screenwriter, a former story analyst at Sony, a blogger, among many, many other things. And he's got some really cool things in the pipeline that we're really excited to hear about today. So
thank you for having me. I feel like an imposter.
No, are you kidding me?
We're excited.
We're so stoked.
Well, we're so excited because if you follow along, we talk about Ken every episode.
Yeah, I know. So you would think you would do some name dropping. We drop your name.
I
all
watch
the
them.
time.
I'm like, they didn't say my name.
Just
kidding.
about every episode. So it's like he's here in person.
It is.
This is awesome.
We're super grateful to have you.
Fellow Scotty right here.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well,
And here we are in the cabin again. Here we are, Wisconsin, in the fall, and it's a gorgeous
beautiful.
day. It is.
Yeah. Back on the island.
We are. Yeah.
Ken, he made it across alive. He hasn't made it back alive. But
I've been writing a lot of Lifetime thrillers lately. When I found out it was on an island, I'm like, they're gonna kill me. Like,
We have ways.
this is like a Lifetime thriller.
making.
So much story.
This is reality TV.
Help me.
This is my last ploy.
Blink twice if you're a chick.
Right.
Signals.
Good luck. You ain't gonna find us.
So jumping back into Faith Final Drafts, our 3 Fs are usually how we start this off. So this is kind of just a little bit of our tradition. So if you want to join in with that, that'd be great. But
Great.
Darla, I'm going to have you start.
I think my faith thing I want to share today is just having faith in the process. I mean, I know a lot of times we talk about faith in God or faith in Jesus and that kind of thing. But today I'm like, I've really been having faith in the writing process. Just realizing, just do the do, keep doing the do, don't give up. And it's given me a lot of like calm and just like, hey, if I just keep plugging away, something's gonna happen before I die, hopefully, but someday something will happen. But I don't know, just faith in the process, don't give up.
I think faith for me is everything. It's such such a grind, and it's like every overnight success that you read about is usually the culmination of like a decade or more of just grinding away and just rejection and ultimate rejection over and over and over again and stuff like that, and then never stops. Like, I mean, I'm just a blue collar screenwriter, but like even the top tier screenwriters they have trouble, trying to get their passion project made or whatever, their spec, even though they're hugely successful. So that's just part of it, and you can't survive that without faith, and it's sometimes like, I know you guys run an amazing podcast here, and I'm sure that there's screenwriters out there that when you get to like the faith thing, you know how some people are, it's like,
Yeah,
we're talking about screenwriting,
right.
but it's, I'm Lutheran. My mom's a retired Lutheran pastor, as you know, and we go to church. My family goes to church. My kids go to church. So faith is what gets me through life and through my career and everything. But it's also like, it doesn't have to be about religion. Like sometimes.
Exactly.
So when you hear people talking about faith and stuff, you can apply that if you're not religious. If you're an atheist, agnostic, or whatever. It's still like faith in the universe, man. Like that's you just gotta have faith that there's something out there for you.
Yeah.
And it's never going to happen like the way you think it's going to happen. It's right. Like it's never
True.
going to happen that way. It's like the mirage of like, I usually equate it to like a mirage, like the, the old,
in the
like,
desert.
exactly right. Like the old cartoons
Yeah.
or like Mickey Mouse or whoever, like the Looney Tunes or whatever characters out in the desert, and they're dying of thirst, and they look and see that oasis,
Right.
and it's like all like just clear water and green and lush and like fruit and stuff like that. I'm like, that's a mirage. And like for screenwriters, it's like, okay, I'm gonna write this one script, my first script, and I'm gonna take it out, and then I'm gonna sell it. And then everything's gonna be great.
And then I'm gonna make movies the rest of my life.
Yeah, exactly.
Live in a big house.
That's the mirage, and it's like it's really about the journey as far as like, instead of the mirage, it's really just about, I can find a little bit of shade here to get me through the day.
Yeah.
Oh, here's a cup. I'm gonna need this if I find the water. Here's a cactus, like, okay, I can get water from cactus, right? It's not a mirage or anything, but I'll need the tools to break down that cactus and get the water. And, that's what screenwriting is.
Yeah, it is.
And that is what, to get you to each point, that's faith. You just got to have faith that it's going to be okay. And, you'll make mistakes.
With the cactus, you got to be able to withstand the prickles.
Exactly, right? I mean, it's like, and that's a perfect analogy of Hollywood. I mean, a perfect analogy. And whether it's you're religious or whether you're not, just have faith that you're on the right journey, no matter what's happening or not happening. So,
and have the faith that there is somebody out there that's waiting to read your story.
Yeah,
and will be moved by reading
and
it.
somebody who'll relate to it.
Yeah.
So,
thank you.
That's awesome. Fantastic. Rebecca, you're
Me. So today I have the F word, but things are looking up, so I don't have any frustration to report.
You're out. That's it. No, ma'am.
Yes. So I just got notified today that I just got paid.
Hey, so it's a just kidding.
But it's for me, the F word is fortitude. That you have to have the strength and fortitude to just keep moving forward. And somebody somewhere out there is just waiting for your script to land on their desk, and you have to have the fortitude and the strength and the confidence to just get it out there. So that's mine today.
That's awesome.
Fortitude and keep following that dream.
Right. Well, I'm going to build on that. So my F word being the final drafts part of it, you got to end up with the final draft. Like having the fortitude to end up with the thing. You finish a thing. Print that bad boy out. Hold on to that thing, because you can sleep with it. You can stick it in a drawer. Whatever you got to do. Just finish the final draft. And we always talk about the notes process and rejection, and what this whole collaboration of the business is like your final draft is never going to be the final draft. No. Like it will continue to evolve, but it still has to get to a place that you feel like in that moment of time it's finished. So like
closure, right? It's like you have to have some type of closure for everything that you do. Otherwise, you're going to be writing it
forever,
years and years. And that's, if you want to be a pro screenwriter, you can't be like that.
No, fantastic. All right, well we're going to jump into having you here because again we're so excited. We were like we kind of had to talk them into it a little bit. There might have been some arm twisting. There might have been some like blackmail.
Like I told you guys, like if it wasn't the three of you, I'd be like, oh my god, say yes. But usually with this type of stuff, like I've done something like this before, and panels and whatnot, and it's usually I dread it up into the moment where we start talking shop, and then I'm like, I'm good.
Yeah.
So,
and we're here to talk shop. We are here to talk shop with the little added extra flair of, you being a brother here in Wisconsin, being outside of the industry. And I think that's something that a lot of people that watch this are like, we love the fact that you're like normal people living normal lives and still going after this dream. Because it's always interesting to me, like, how did you become a writer? What's your origin story as like your childhood into figuring out why you wanted to be a storyteller?
I grew up in the 80s, and it was just, I think it's a magical time. This is before phones and before all of that stuff. So, I mean, basically we had TV and whatnot. So all the cartoons that we'd watch and action figures and like playing outside, and literally like back then we would be on a Saturday, we'd be gone morning, 9 o'clock.
When the
Get
street lights
home.
came on,
Yeah,
that's when you rode home.
Exactly.
Really?
And sometimes you didn't come home like at the right time. You get in trouble, but that was the fun part. But no, it was basically like
Cops
it was
coming.
yeah, a couple times. No, I was kidding. But yeah, it's basically using your imagination. You know, we grew up doing that. You know, one of my favorite movies growing up was the Goonies, and so all of our friends in the neighborhood, we would go in my basement. We had this massive basement in my childhood home, and turn off all the lights, so it looks like you're in a cave or you're the movie. And we made like at least 6 sequels to the Goonies, playing the characters and stuff like that. And that was my childhood, is just creating stories. I mean, that's really where it came from. As far as like, you know, movies, like my parents introduced me to movies really, really early. Some movies probably a little bit too early, but like they love movies, and that's really like where I kind of escaped. Like if there's that new Steven Spielberg movie that's coming out. It's about his life.
Yes. I'm excited.
And it's basically about, I mean, it's his story. And there was a shot, I mean, I tear up watching the trailer, because there's a shot where he's watching.
He's in the cinema with his
He's
parents.
in the cinema for the first time. And like,
yeah.
you see the shot, it's like close on him. And it's just this wide-eyed kid. Just, and that's how I felt. Like, that's how I still feel. Like, I think we all feel that way. We're just like even when I go to movies with my wife and kids, like I'm just like, it's magic. Like that's how it is.
What I love about you, Ken, is if you follow Ken on social media, you share that love of cinema, and I love that you do that, because that's how the feeling we all had. That we all kind of recapture that, like when the movies was a thing. You went to the movies on the weekend, and I mean,
it's not like it is today where you can just turn on your TV and see a blockbuster movie. Like you waited. Like I remember waiting in the Star Wars lines, right? Like you remember around the block, or when ET came out, right? Like
Back to the Future. Like these are like childhood memories that you retain, and that's my boys love the movies that I grew up with. Like you walk into their room and they have a Goonies poster, they have like Terminator and stuff, like all this stuff. So, that's where it came from, is just using my imagination, just putting stories together in cinematic formula or fashion and stuff.
It's like that eye of the story, right? The visual eye of the story, and
wanting to create your own stories. Like, okay, what's the scenario we're gonna do outside today in the ditch, you know, like stuff like that.
Always in a ditch.
Exactly. It always starts in a ditch.
So one question before we go on to the next question, because we kind of talked about this yesterday. You watched Goonies as a kid. What was it like watching Goonies with your boys the first time?
Pure glee. With my oldest, like we're getting into Tarantino and stuff. And you know, so it's but pure glee.
I love this. This is a little different from because
we were all of us mamas were like, stop.
It's probably a mom dad thing.
Perspective is so different than like mine. Like when I'm watching Notebook with my son, I'm like, oh wait, let's not watch Notebook together.
I remember watching The Doors with my parents, and I don't know if you've seen that movie, but there's gratuitous sex and stuff like that. So I just thought it was Jim Morrison and The Doors. Went to the video store, right, and we rented that. I'm like,
I miss going to the video store.
Oh, I know.
That's a whole
that's like you get the theater and then you have the video store. It's different now, but like watching that with them, and then the sex starts. I'm sorry, and it was like my dad was like, "What the heck is this? It's pornography or something." I'm just like, but it's like, when that happens with the boys, I'm total dad about it. Like I'm just like, okay, well,
you don't get up and put your sweater like, wait.
I'm like, if it's better, like usually like Tyler's 13, so I'm like usually like close your eyes, like 15, 16 when like my oldest is 17 now, so it's like
they can handle it.
Yeah, but
so you grew up loving movies, and you're like, I'm gonna go into the film industry. I'm moving to L.A. And you did that.
Yeah, I did. Like, thankfully, I met an awesome woman, Amy, my wife, 22 years next week.
Yay! Congrats!
But they like I had wanted to do that. I graduated in '94, and then I kind of floundered in Madison, Wisconsin for a few years.
There's worse places to flounder.
Yeah, exactly. Right. And then we had an opportunity. She was going to go to graduate school in Riverside, California, which is 40 miles away. from LA. And so at the time we were like, 40 miles, like in Wisconsin.
We're like, that's nothing.
That's 35 minutes, right? If you're driving real fast, but like
LA is
if
3 hours.
Yeah, it's actually like a 3-hour
It's a
drive.
long
But
drive,
so the first couple of years were a little bit difficult, but yeah, like so in '99 we moved out there, and I kind of started out just to get on movie sets. Being a movie extra, that was the easiest way to do it, and I didn't do it to really be discovered or anything like that. But just the magic of being on a movie set was like
nice.
That's where it all started, you know.
And so like you were an extra, and then what was your progression to how you got into storytelling? You were a story analyst at Sony.
This whole time before I started at Sony, I'm obviously throughout my whole journey writing scripts and stuff like that, writing horrible scripts to start, because
Everybody does.
The first two are always pretty bad. You think they're awesome. You think they're the most, like, Hollywood needs this. They need this story. But then you read it like 2 years later, like, oh my gosh. But yeah, so we literally were looking for another. So she had graduated from graduate school, didn't need to be in Riverside anymore. And so we were looking for places. And so we looked online and just picked a random place. Okay, good price and whatnot. So we go there and like we get to the place, and literally Sony Studios, which is the old MGM Studios, is right across the street.
Nice.
Like literally literally like a 30-second
sunlight
walk.
was like beaming down on you.
Oh my God, the angels were singing.
Yeah.
So we moved there, and so I tried to get in, like I didn't have a degree or film degree or anything like that. So I tried to like go that route as far as like applying to jobs and stuff, and it was really difficult. You know how it is. It's really difficult to do. So I would go jogging because the radius of the studio was a mile. So I do that like 3 times, and every time I get to a gate, I just peeking in and just like,
I'm not a creepy guy.
Yeah, like puppy dog eyes. Like I want to be one of you. Like I'd see people coming out with their ID badges and stuff like that. So I wanted to be there. And one day I just got fed up, and I walked up to a security guard, and I'm just like, how do I get a job here? 2 weeks later, I was a security guard. And then I talked myself into working at the VIP lot at Sony. And that's where like Amy Pascal, who was like the head of the studio at the time, I would just be meeting all of these people and everything. And then I worked myself into a studio liaison position, working with all the production companies and all the productions that were coming in and stuff like that. And then I met a guy that was coming through to get his Sony ID, and he was a new executive for a company that's working with Sony. And I just took a shot, and I said, hey, do you need a script reader? I had interned for Randall Kleiser, he directed Grease, the original Grease, and Flight of the Navigator, if you like 80s movies. What was that? Brooke Shields. The beach one.
Lagoon.
Yeah, he directed that.
Yeah.
So it was like iconic movies for the most part, you know. But I kind of learned script reading and stuff like that through him, and that was a couple months, and that was through a best friend that I lived with in La Crosse. Had moved to L.A. and he was his assistant. He left to go be on a reality show, because this is like early 2000s where reality was booming, and that's how I got connected. So it's who you know and stuff like that, right?
But that whole time you were writing.
Yeah,
right?
the whole time, like all this is happening, I'm writing.
So when
I
you're
get
not
a script
working,
reader
you're
job.
writing.
Yeah, exactly. And my best education in screenwriting, I had read all the books. You know, I'd taken a course at UW, Christine DeSmith's course, and but like. And Barnes Noble was like, that was my university for the most part. So but the best, like reading scripts, good and bad, and having to break them down and analyze them and stuff, that was like the best education I've ever had. And that's kind of what took me from this level to this level.
There's so many different ways that you can get into this industry, right? Like you don't have to go get your MFA. And especially nowadays there's so many resources online. Like there's between YouTube and articles, and you know, one of the things, you know, when I first met you, you were like, you know, I had all of the questions. You were like, I have it all written down. Go to Quora, go to Screen Grab. Like you had it's been so cool. And I know you get a lot of comments from people that read your articles. You're like this was like screenwriting 101 from a dude that didn't have to write the book.
Where that comes from is it's information, just general information and like real world experience that I would have killed for back in the mid 90s, late 90s, where I was coming out. You know, it's like that's where I channel that through. So it's cool to be able, and a lot of it's basic stuff, but it's just it's interesting because it's within the industry, and it's like boots to the ground. Like
you the way that
in the trenches, like
you framed it very much that was relatable, that didn't have all this highbrow or language that we didn't understand. You were that's one of the best things about which you've given to emerging writers coming in the community, as well as existing writers. You know what I mean? Like people are learning from you, whether or not they're new on their journey or they've been in it for years. They're like, this dude is totally right. Like you've had so much confirmation of sharing information.
And the cool thing, like when I'm writing these articles, because I do research, and like it's usually a topic that I just come up with, like a question or something like that. And so I do research on it, and like I learn a lot about my writing and how I should do stuff through that, because I'm thinking about it more, and I'm thinking about process, like you were talking about, which is when you become a professional screenwriter, process is huge. Like you have to have it nailed down, you know, because you have a limited amount of time to get what your producers need.
And we'll get a little bit into that, like you know, just your progress into being a working writer. So flash forward, you did the Sony thing, and what changed in your life that you were like, big changes need to happen, but I might have to like set my dream might have to shift and change. So
big change. Like we had our first son in 2005, and that was like, by that time I had I was just written kind of my marquee script, which was Doomsday Order, excuse me. And so I was ready to take it out, and Amy, my wife, you know, she's an angel. Like she's like, without her,
we're your biggest fans too.
100%. Like without, we've been very fortunate for somebody to be with somebody that believes in the dream and supports you, like literally supports you in multiple levels. But she was just like, why don't you stay at home with Jack and focus on your writing? You know, and so
talk a little bit about that conversation, like emotionally, like, because that's something.
It was hard because like when you're, I mean, it's stupid and machismo type stuff, and there's you know, well, I mean, it's like you feel that, okay, I'll stay at home dad, like I should be supporting you. There's those elements and stuff. So
culture brings a lot into when you're trying to,
big time, right? And it creates insecurities and stuff like that. But I was just like, okay, let's give it a shot, you know. And I mean, technically it was like 2006 where I started doing that, and literally have been I prefer work at home.
I like it.
Yeah, I prefer work at home.
There's nobody staying at home.
I know, I'm not just staying there. There's
no stay-at-home parents everywhere.
Since 2006, that's what I've been doing. Like I haven't been in office since my Sony offices. And then, so I actually wrote a great script, Doomsday Order, and through networking and stuff like that, I got it to a studio, and that eventually got me a manager. And so like things started picking up.
Right, when you're leaving LA.
I know, and I'm like, so it was the holidays in like 2005, I believe, and we came back to Wisconsin, so we're spending time with family. We got this cute little baby and everything. I literally, like, speaking of faith and whatnot, literally heard a voice late at night, like just surrounded by snow outside and stuff like that, very Christmas type feeling, and literally that said it's time to come home.
I just got goosebumps.
I mean, I'm like,
there was like goosebumps.
and that. I told Amy, I don't know if it was probably a week later or something like that. And I'm like, do you think we should move back? And she was shocked. So we decided to do that. And then, of course, I start getting meetings. Meetings with literally almost all the major studios because of this one script. So my manager hooked me up with these meetings, and I'm driving into like DreamWorks, the parking lot, and I'm just like, Spielberg's office is right over there. And I'm like,
it's the craziest feeling. You're like, what am I doing
I know.
here?
It's like I said before. Well, you've been at the studio. Well, I mean, you know the experience. It's magic. This is where the magic happens, right?
I stood out the gates while Sarah went into.
You were peeking everything.
I was the peeker. She's like, I was walking around with the homeless people in the park across the street, waiting for Sarah to get out of Spielberg's office. Okay, sorry, do me around.
No, but that's like, so yeah, I'm having all this momentum and everything. And I go on all these meetings, and the meetings are going well, and then I have to break the news to my manager. I'm like, well, you know, a few months ago we were saying we're going to move back to Wisconsin. Thankfully, he was like, well, you know, as long as you can come back, you don't need to be out here. And then 2006, we moved. You know, I had my last day at Sony because I was still consulting with Sony a little bit, so I would go in for a few days now and then. And literally, like, I drove. It was at night. I had my golf cart. And
he's got lots of golf cart stories. We'll get to those.
But like, so I took, and at night the studio is generally kind of dead and whatnot, and took a drive around like every little street, every little corner, just to take it in. Then I go.
Did you feel like there was like a sound track playing?
Yeah, pretty much. Well, it's like, yeah. So I'm going into my car and ready to drive out the gate, and I'm stupid me. I play, what's that?
Oh no! So you did do it. Oh no!
What song was it?
Green Day's sad song.
Oh,
Time of Your Life.
Yes! Oh,
I'm like,
man.
I'm like,
No!
like, why am I playing this?
Dead.
Literally, I'm driving out, and I drive. The security guy is probably like,
What?
I'm driving out, bawling my eyes out.
So you do the huge move back to Wisconsin. I kind of look at this as almost like the end of Act 1.
Yeah,
For
it's
you
a really
in
good
your-
analogy. Yeah.
In your writing life, and Act 2 is usually where scripts go to die. But you, sir, did not have that. Like your Act 2 with your writing career here in Wisconsin has just been awesome to watch. So you came back.
Yeah.
And what does one do when you're like, you feel like you've left your dream behind, your tears are in the Sony lot, and you come back and you're like, I'm raising kids in the middle of Wisconsin where there is no industry here.
That's exactly what it was like. It was like, did I just leave my dream behind? You know, and I'm like, but then you look down this cute baby and this, you know, and that's
a new dream.
You know how it is. It changes your life.
It does.
So a lot of focus was on that, but I still needed to keep it going. And so thankfully I still had my relationship with my then manager. And he was like, what's next? You know, that's the question. Like, what's the next one? We'll still try to get this one out. But so we came up with a concept, and I wrote One Shot, One Kill, which is a script that we eventually retooled together. And yeah, took that out and like did really well, got meetings and, you know, meetings with my manager and them. I didn't go out there at that time, but he got me a deal at Lionsgate through that. So this is 2007, late 2007. And yeah, so this was like my first paid gig, and I was 2,000 miles away from Hollywood. So it was pretty cool. And unfortunately, this was right when the guild strike and the economy collapsed. It was like 2007, 2008. So you know how that affected everything. That was like literally like they were dropping deals left and right. Studios like with big names were dropping deals because it was just panic. So it didn't get produced or anything like that. But I got paid and it was good.
Nice.
And then it was it was a grind, you know, for a number of years. Like I had that success, and then it was like a couple of years later I got through a contact that through the WSF, this producer that was in LA but learned about the WSF, and at the time I was the president of it, and he's like, anything I can do, you know. So we talked about that, and of course I had to pitch him some stuff. And so I did that, and like that led to my first produced gig, which is Blackout, which is a miniseries that starred Anne Hesh, the late Anne Hesh. And you know, I got to go to L.A. I got to fly out there. I got to be on set. That was the first time where I was behind camera. He was taking me around. It was a night shoot, and like they were shooting the opening of the miniseries, and it was like my words coming to life, my actions coming to life, and like there's no better feeling.
So let me back you up just a little bit. So the WSF, which is the Wisconsin Screenwriters Forum, I know you guys were so active in that and inspiring so many other writers, and I mean us included. That's how we you know got looped in or whatever. Right. So talk a little bit about like how did you find that crew and the two of you guys serving together. It's been really cool because you guys have known each other since 2008.
He was president and I was vice president.
So I to make some money on the side because again this is 2008, so
always
this
have
is
a
after
side hustle.
Yeah, exactly, right.
You solidly do need to have a side hustle.
Exactly. So I went to the UW-Madison and found an opportunity to teach screenwriting courses, which I kind of was a passion project for me because again it goes back to like I wanted to give people, especially in the Midwest.
Share the knowledge.
Yeah,
Yes.
I was
Yeah.
really excited, and I still get really excited about it because it's like my experience being out there and stuff is unique to people, to screenwriters that are around, not in LA.
Right.
So going out to that, and then I met Rebecca, and then a number of other people from the WSF, and
I took one of your classes.
yeah,
Oh, cool.
and then there was an opening for the president position.
Yep.
So, and then I don't know if you want to.
Yeah. So we both found out about WSF. I think I found out about it from Peggy Williams, and you might have found out about it from Christine.
Yes. Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Christine Smet. Yep. And so we kind of joined WSF around the same time, and then the current president was moving on, and so that left a president seat open. And this guy, with all of his credentials, was pretty awesome. And plus, you love the craft, obviously. You love the craft. You're passionate about it. You like to talk about it. Same thing for me, that we just kind of teamed up to be president and vice president. And I did that for like 8 or 9 years.
I was in it for 4 years. So 2008 to 2012.
Yeah.
And like we created a lot of great programs and like met some awesome people. We had awesome retreats because everyone has a different story. Like everyone has a different process.
Right.
Yeah.
Everyone, like there's no like people go into, I think you were talking about before, like there's no secret formula or anything like that, whether it be for writing a script or like career or anything like there's no, like everyone has a different story. So it was really cool to learn different stories from different people. Like I look at you guys and I learned so much from you guys and the different successes that you've had, publishing books and stuff like that, which I've never done. And like, so.
Well, and I think, just talking about writing, especially if you hit a desert with your script or with your story or with your own frame of mind of writing your own project. If you're in the desert, but you get together with other writers and just start talking about writing, it gets you out of that desert.
Yeah, I think that's the key thing is like, we talk about writing groups and stuff like that. And I have like 2 different angles on that. Like I love them for that reason alone, is when you're with like-minded people, you want to write. Like you like after this, I'm gonna be like,
happy to write.
Yeah, I mean that's how it is. My advice to people is like, writing groups are great, but you also can't rely on them.
Yeah.
Right.
So there's this balance that you have to have of like having that support group, which is amazing. You have to have that. Find them. Go find your people. Go find your tribe. But you also have to, from a pro screenwriter perspective, you really need to, because when you sign a contract, you're on your own. Like you can't.
Sign it.
You can't. Like, hey, can you give me feedback? Like you literally by law cannot share anything with anybody.
True.
So it's like you have to balance that, like that support group with like being on your own, or if you have a writing partner, just the 2 of you or whatever it is. But so that's how we met, and it's been a great group. We just recently had somebody that published a book. And which was awesome. So it was like kind of like a mini reunion.
Talk about fortitude. Stick it with it.
It's the desert, right? It's like you take all these little successes and you build a career. Or like the cool thing is, what I love about the WSF and like just this type of stuff and everything is, it's what gets me excited is like people are trying. Like the fact that you're just out there doing it is a miracle to me, because there's so many people that are on their deathbed that just wonder like, what if I had?
What would it have been like?
Yeah.
And we're like, hey, watch this. We'll make it. Let's go.
And
there's so many coulda, woulda, shoulda.
Yep.
Yeah.
And there's so many people who are just sitting on their couch still dreaming about it. So it's like, there is so much encouragement we can take from each other that no matter where we're at in that progression, that we're trying.
It goes back to the faith thing. It's like whether it's God or the universe is like, you have a path, a final destination, and you will get there. You just got to listen to all the whispers and stuff like that that's out there.
Yeah. And one of the things I think is really cool about you've invested in people. You have invested time. Like every time I would send you something, you would invest time to read that thing and give me really good notes. And I know you've done that for so many people. And it just goes to show you, like when you're in something that seems so solitary, you can still invest time in people and like passing that on. So like you teaching me that, I'm working with writers right now that I'm investing time in. I'm like, oh my gosh, I
that's
can't
awesome.
believe Ken did that. Like, he's a
Oh,
saint.
it's so
Yeah, yeah.
Like, you know,
Yes.
so you leading by example in investing in other writers is
Mhm.
something that we have always found very inspirational. And, you know, there's a lot of people that are gimme.
Mhm.
Like the fact that it can be this banking system and this
Right.
exchange has
Yeah.
been,
Let's
it's
talk
really
about
cool
it
to
from
learn
a
from.
professional standpoint.
Mhm.
I mean, you're investing in up and coming writers,
Yeah.
but you're also investing in the relationships that you have built
Exactly.
in the industry.
Mhm.
So, like where you are today
Mhm.
came through a series of relationships and networking.
Yeah,
and
you can
investments.
track it
Talk about
back
that.
all
Yep.
the way back to, you know, so far, like 1996. I took that UW course with Christina Smith. It's when I wanted to take Doomsday Order out. You know, you get to a point where like, okay, I did some cold queries and stuff like that. Now I got to start networking. So I went to Christine. I'm like, hey, what do you suggest? And she suggested what was that? The Hollywood Badgers,
Yeah.
which is a group of UW alumni. It's basically university people that are in the industry.
Yeah.
And so that's how I sent it to. I queried some people from that list. I never went to UW, but my wife did, so that was like kind of my in.
Yeah.
And I'm from Wisconsin, you know, and
Yes.
I took one course, you know, an elect or whatever they're called.
Where I'm getting in there.
Yeah, so I wiggled my way in there, and that's what led to Paramount. A Paramount executive, who was this guy, I can't remember his name, junior executive that liked the script, and then he put it through the Paramount system, and it did well. And my eventual manager called me from that, you know. So it's like, yeah, it's like the relationships that you build and stuff. And without the WSF, I would have never met this guy this producer who produced Blackout. You know, that wouldn't have happened. Ironically, he's the reason why I got this recent Lifetime thriller stuff.
Yeah,
was
so
we
let's
you.
get
we
into
reconnected.
that.
We reconnected.
Yeah.
You know, like we reconnected, and we're talking about different project. And then he's like, hey, I have this in. Do you want to write a script together? And for a Lifetime thriller, it might be good. And then now, you know, we kind of went our separate ways as far as the writing goes. But like 5-6 contracts later, you know, the last year and a half. So yeah, like what you're saying, it's like, you know, the people that you meet, you know, whether they're above you or below your peers or anything like that.
Right.
That's huge. Right. It's so huge.
Especially if they love your writing and they want to champion you.
Yeah.
You know, keep in contact with those people because they want to be your cheerleader. They want to champion you.
Yeah, exactly.
Super cool.
So you have this opportunity, and because of you've maintained those relationships, you've built this career. You know, we're breaking into like your Act 3 right now.
Yeah.
Like, you know, that had to be like this amazing experience of like, you know, the mountaintop moment of like, hey, this is like a thing now.
Exactly.
And now you are in it. Like you are in the full thing of
the Lifetime
writing.
Executives are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's
asking
really
you for more.
Yeah.
Like that's like, I don't know how it happened. It just happened out of the blue. Like we hadn't talked. This producer that I partnered up with for the first script, we hadn't talked for years, and it started from that. And
So it didn't come from Hunter's Creed, because I assumed that you worked on Hunter's Creed. With
so back in 2000, I think it was 2017, I had another friend who I had met at a writers' conference where I met you.
That was that weekend.
Justin
That was the
Jackala.
same one.
Okay.
And we were taking pictures from writers and stuff like that for this writing conference, and we had rooms across from each other. And so in between pitches, like we're just sitting out there checking our phones and stuff. And he's like, "Hey man, what's up?" Like, and that's where the friendship started. And so months later, we reconnected, and he hired me to write a script for him. It was like kind of an action comedy called The Assassin's Journey.
Okay.
And then that led into, he had a kind of a passion project. He wanted to create a unique thriller, which is like, but it was also faith-based. Because faith-based is like, I mean, there's a huge market for that. But he wanted to also do a horror movie. It was like match Blair Witch with faith-based. And initially I'm like,
that's a tall order.
Okay.
I could do it.
Exactly. But that led to him hiring me to write the script. I wrote the script. And then he sold it, and it's Dog the Bounty Hunter of all people was brought in to kind of amp up the marketing for it and whatnot, name recognition and whatnot. But that didn't start from the Lifetime stuff. Didn't start from that. Good. It started from this producer from 8 years prior that I worked with, and he he's like, he wanted to get into writing again. He's a big executive producer with hundreds of credits through various channels and stuff. And so I'm like, so we partnered up and we did a couple pitches, sent them out to who's the executive I work with now. And we sold the first couple. We didn't leave on bad terms or anything. We're just like, hey, let's just do our own thing. And like I've had since then 5 contracts so it's actually a production company that works with Lifetime. So the process is basically either they come to me with a concept or whatever, or I pitch one to them, and then it starts from there. It's like it's
so awesome.
And
awesome. Then they
Yeah.
must love you.
Yeah.
well, that's a key. Like being a good collaborator is huge.
Yes. So talk a little bit more about because Lifetime it does have a formula. Like there are certain things that the audience is expecting, the executives are expecting, the production. Talk a little bit about like how do you stay inspired when you're writing somebody's other idea, if it's not your idea, off of that concept, and like even if that concept, like I know you've mentioned, there was that was it the Hider in My House? Is that the one? I don't know if I can I talk about this?
The most recent one?
No, not the podcast murders.
Can't talk about the most recent one. The Tubi. It's related to writing something for Tubi, but yeah, we could talk about it. We just can't name it.
Well, see, now we're being mysterious.
Yeah,
it's a big secret.
It's a big secret. No, I'll back it up. How about I back it up?
We force him to reveal.
Yes, I'll just back it up to
that wine.
Darla will get it out of you.
And
then she'll kill you.
And I'll steal your idea.
That's why I'm here.
She finally figured it out.
Again, help me.
We're getting that desperate over here. But
no, so like let's just back it up to talking about writing other people's ideas and staying, on track with making sure you stay inspired for that, and even just the the practicality of like how do you do it? How do you break it down? What are your deadlines usually? Because I feel like it would be important for people to know. For a working writer, like how do deadlines work? How do you do it? What does your office look like? Like give us a little bit of like a day in the life of Ken with a deadline.
Yeah. So basically, what it's like is, and this is like not just with Lifetime or the production company that I write for. It's with most contracts and stuff. It's basically they come, like we said, they come to you, or you have one that you pitch to them. Then usually what they have you do is write off a synopsis. It's usually like 2-3 pages, just to break down just the general beats and stuff. Log line on top of that, and you take it to them, and you kind of work it out through there, and then they take it to Lifetime or whoever. Like if it's a feature film, they take it out to the financiers or the studio, the distributor, or whatever it is, and then it goes to contract after that. And then so the next step is you're generally going to write an outline. So an outline is basically like a beat sheet, like it's literally just a bullet point covering like it's usually like 8 pages maybe. Maybe there's no like specific formula, but there's like maybe like 40
Do you break
beats.
it down into acts? Do you break it down into acts?
No, nothing like that. It's basically cinematically. Like I like it, and I think they do too. Just scene, the first scene, the second scene, the third scene. And it's basically, you don't do everything in between, but you kind of have to do most of it. This is the difference between writing on spec, where you can just be like, do whatever you want and however you want. When you're collaborating with people, though, there needs to be some type of structure and stuff. So yeah, just getting that outline down, and then the process begins again, and you get paid for the outline. That's where the contract starts. And then you give it to them, they give you notes, and that's the cool thing. Like I used to never be an outliner, like writing specs. Like I used to like back in the day, you probably remember, I was like, like paralysis.
Just let it flow.
Yeah, paralysis of analysis, which is, there's truth to that too. But when you're collaborating, you have to have that.
Everybody
type of
has to be
structure.
on the same page.
Exactly, and it's better to do it. It's so much easier to do it.
Fix it in an outline versus fixing it in a script.
Yeah, because a script is really a house of cards. Like
that's a really good.
If they ask you to like take something out, like
you're like,
falls down,
no.
and you're like, but yeah. So it's the collaboration processes, and then it goes to script, and you get paid for it. So outline. And then you get paid for the first draft, and then you get paid for rewrite drafts. And then the cool thing about Lifetime is like they produce so many movies per year. So you know it's going to get produced.
Yeah.
They wouldn't have signed you if
They
it's.
know the
They're not going to waste money and then not do it. Whereas
Yeah.
Hollywood or the studio system,
So
major
it's-
production companies, like you could write a script, you could get paid for it, and it never sees the light of day or anything like that.
You're like, well,
Yeah, so like, and then when it gets made, you get a production bonus where the big chunk of money comes in and stuff like that. But it's like the collaborative process is huge to be able to take notes, and to be able to not freak out when they don't agree with what you have. That's the hard part. Like, there's always like, I always give myself 24 hours because the initial thing is like, that's stupid. Like, that's not going to work. I did this because this happens. And
Right. Did you see what I did there?
Exactly.
Like, why would you want to do that?
Yeah, and you have to take 24 hours,
Yeah.
and then you realize, okay, this isn't feedback. These are notes.
Yes.
Right.
It's my job
to make it work.
as a pro screenwriter to make it work and to give them what they need.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter why they just want it. Sometimes it's like production. Like sometimes it's locations that they don't
Budget.
have.
Right.
A lot of times it's budget, or a lot of casting.
Mm-hmm.
All these
much.
elements come into play. And like a lot of people like may freak out about it, but I love it. Like, it's a challenge. Like, you gotta really love the challenge
Yeah.
when you're working on contract. Is like taking somebody else's idea and the challenge of you also making it
Right.
your own too.
Do you feel like because you've kind of seen, for the lack of a better phrase, how the sausage is made, knowing what that going and seeing on set, being on that studio lot, going through the life cycle that you have has made you a better note taker or writing within that realm of being
for
a
sure.
contract writer?
Yeah,
Like,
that's huge. Like, knowing the process, knowing what goes into it, knowing why they can't do that. Like, I have one that's coming up that was just greenlit for production, and it's going out to producers and stuff like that. But there's an element, like a production element, that involves some things that are, can be costly and whatnot. And so they're trying to figure out what producers can do that. So it's like there's so many different elements. So it may very well need to come back to me and say, hey, we got a producer, but you need to take that element out, even though it's very pivotal. Make it something else that's a little bit easier to produce. So you've got to be able to just do that, because that's being a good collaborator is that's what gets them excited and gets me continue to be like hired and hired and hired.
Right.
Is because I'm like, okay,
I'll do it.
Would you consider yourself a perfect writer?
oh heck no.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Like,
And
nobody.
I guarantee you, it's the top tier screenwriters out there are just as insecure.
Yes.
Yes.
I've met some, and they're just like us. Like,
Yeah.
they're just like, they're insecure. This is horrible. This sucks. Or they think it's amazing, and it's really not.
Yeah.
It's like,
Right.
that never stops. Like, I've talked to guys that have, men and women that have been very successful, box office wise, Oscar nominations, whatever, what have you. And they're just like us. That's the cool thing. So that makes people feel good, hopefully.
Right.
Yeah.
You
like,
know,
the
and
real-
that never changes. You never lose your insecurity because you're suddenly successful for whatever,
And,
box office or whatever.
and there's like a certain I don't know if it's a certain type of people. Weirdos, I don't know. I love that we've all found each other.
Yeah.
And even as unsurmountable as it seems sometimes, even though you're there, we're still
But even though like I'm there, I'm not there.
Exactly,
Like,
even
it goes back to the Mirage thing. Like, there's never like you always think like, if I do this, if I get a manager, forget about it. Like, I'm there.
It's just part of it's another piece of the journey, and everybody's road will twist and turn depending on what you're doing, what that life is looking like. So here's a question: what is making it for you?
Really, like, I'm pretty close. Like, I'm happy right now.
Yeah.
Like, the last year and a half, I've been very blessed. I'm like, and I don't have, you don't want to get an ego about it or anything like that.
We're super stoked about just this journey that you've had, and that you shared it with us, and that we've gotten a chance to really get to know you, and your friendship and all that stuff has been awesome. But we really want to kind of promote you. So what are you working on? Where are you at right now? What can we promote for you that we can get, your wisdom out in the world, as well as take a look at all of your projects?
No, I got the podcast Murders, which is the next Lifetime thing that's been produced.
I feel like we've had a premonition here.
I know, right?
Podcast
the podcast
Murders.
It's kind of
No, nice.
Yeah, I know.
No, I'm just kidding.
I can't wait to see that one.
When is it coming up?
It's coming out October 16th. or it came out October 16th, depending upon when this is shown.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, so that's the next one, and it's a great cast. And it's probably like, as I'm writing these Lifetime thrillers, because they are kind of like, there's no formula, but they're formulaic. You know what to expect when you go to Lifetime thrillers, and that's what they love to do because that's what audiences love. So, but this one is like, I think with each one, I've gotten a little bit better, a little bit more comfortable, found ways to like shake things up a little bit. So this one like has some really cool twists to it.
Nice.
So I'm really excited for this one, especially. It used to be called Killer Podcast,
Which I like that.
which is like a total Lifetime thriller
Right.
title, but they changed it for whatever reason. I actually like this new one, but great cast and everything. So that's the next one. And then I have another one that was greenlit and is about to go into production. And then
Exciting.
Yes.
working on another one. And
Always working.
So
Sweet.
So where can we find you? Because again, your wisdom that's out in the world into the interwebs is pretty wide and vast, and there's so many different cool places where, you've got Twitter, Screencraft, Script Lab, like all of the places.
Yeah, so Screencraft I've been working with since 2015. So I've been writing for them since then. In 2014, I actually won their action thriller contest, which you came in second to runner up the very next year. So great company. They do a lot of. They're really well connected with the industry, which is really nice. So it's like one of the premier fellowships, or they have the genre contests and stuff like that. So the great people. But what I do for them is I kind of just write talk shop basically. And I've been doing that. I have like 700 articles, I think, since 2015. So you
Great
can go
library
there.
Of material.
Just click on resources, click on blog, and then you'll look for my name. There's other writers too, but then you can click on my name, and then all of my stuff is on there. I'm on Twitter at Ken Movies.
All you need. All you need.
And now he's a professional podcaster.
Yeah. I'll be here every. No, I'm just kidding.
He's like, I'm coming to the island next time. He just shows up.
I'll be looking in the window as they're talking.
He's like, Mr. Rogers just opens up the door. Hey, friends.
Ooh, there we go.
I just thought of something that I think I would like, since we got some battery left. What is your favorite, like a fun industry story?
Like screenwriting or from Hollywood? I like talking about it, but most of the people that are in my family and friend circle are so sick of it. So I'm happy to share it with you. But no, I've met a lot of people and iconic people and stuff like that. And Harrison Ford I've had a conversation with back in the day. Which is like Han Solo.
Was that like in your brain the whole time?
I know, the studio was really cool because you walk around and you just see people. You see there's Stallone, there's Bruce Willis, there's Charlize Theron, there's like all these people. But probably I worked in my position as a studio liaison. I worked with Adam Sandler's crew a lot. So I have great stories about him. We used to play basketball together. Not like one-on-one or anything like that, but we used to play at the Sony Athletic Center. And that was probably the key story that I have is like I was guarding him and my knee popped and he tore my ACL, which is unrepaired to this day because the baby was on the way. And he helped me off the court and wouldn't probably afraid to get sued, but wouldn't leave my side until the Sony Medical came. And it's a great guy, one of the most genuine guys you'll meet in Hollywood and stuff like that. So lots of cool stories.
Very cool. Oh my gosh, love. Thank you.
Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me. This is awesome. This is just like hanging with friends. So
and this is the only reason that we said yes to this, because it was very much like, let's document our journey and hanging out with friends and just having fun with people that are doing this crazy dream and are doing it. So thank you so much for investing time with us today and in us as writers.
Well, you made it through another episode. Thanks for joining in. For more information on our podcast and videos, be sure to check out our Facebook page with the same title, Faith, Final Drafts, and the F Word. This episode of Faith, Final Drafts, and the F Word was filmed and recorded on a small island located in southeastern Wisconsin. And just in case you're still wondering, Ken made it back to shore safe and sound.